The Fourth Industrial Revolution, a seductive idea requiring critical engagement. This has to do with Klaus Schwab and WEF. This is by Ruth Castro-Branco, researcher, management, University of Witwatersrand, and Hannah Dawson, senior research, Southern Center for Inequality Studies, University of Witwatersrand, South Africa. This is on the conversation. Narrative frames are fundamental to unifying ideology. They frame what is possible and impossible, which ideas can be accepted and which must be rejected. In her book, Digital Democracy, Analog Politics, storyteller and political analyst Nanjala Naibola examines the framing of the Fourth Industrial Revolution narrative in its light. She argues that it's being used by global elites to deflect from the drivers of inequality and enable ongoing processes of expropriation, exploitation, and exclusion. During a recent policy dialogue on the future of workers, she commented, "The real seduction of this idea is that it's apolitical. We can talk about development and progress without having to grapple with power." The Fourth Industrial Revolution's chief ideologue is Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, who published an influential book on the same name, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. In it, he argues that digital innovations are transforming the ways in which people live, work, and relate to each other. These include artificial intelligence and robotics, quantum cloud computing, and blockchain technology. Compared to previous industrial revolutions, he maintains the Fourth Industrial Revolution is evolving at an exponential pace, reorganizing systems of production, management, and governance in unprecedented ways. But there is growing critique, particularly from the global south, of this capital-friendly framing of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Many are questioning whether it should be considered a revolution at all. The available evidence suggests that the proliferation of digital technologies has been highly uneven, driven by an older generation of technological innovation and used to reproduce rather than transform unequal social relations. We share the view that there is nothing predetermined or linear about what digital technology is developed and how it is used and for what end. The challenge is how to harness digital innovations to improve the conditions of work and life while holding capital accountable. Arguments against. Historian Ian Moll questions whether the current myriad of digital technology innovations constitute an industrial revolution. After all, revolutions are not characterized by technological changes alone. Rather, they're driven by transformations in the labor process, fundamental changes in workplace relations, shifts in social relations, and global socioeconomic reconstructing. The Industrial Revolution, for example, gave rise to factories that changed how people worked as well as where they lived. The centralization of workplaces saw growing urbanization, deepening class divides between the rich and the poor. It also saw the emergence of trade unions. It's clear that digital technologies are reshaping the structure of the labor market and conditions of work. They're doing this through automation and labor replacement, the informalization of Uberization of work, the imposition of algorithmic management, and commodification of data. But they seem to be deepening rather than transforming historic patterns of inequality along the lines of class, gender, race, citizenship, and geographic location. As Naibola put it, data is the new oil, data points which can be extracted for profit. Despite critiques, the African Union, AU, has embraced the Fourth Industrial Revolution as a watershed moment for Africa's development. The AU describes it as an opportunity to leapfrog into the digital era, increasing global competitiveness and generate new sources of employment. Scholar activist Trevor Nguyen argues in the edited volume, The Fourth Industrial Revolution is a Sociological Critique, that technological innovation can indeed be beneficial for the working class. It can reduce drudgery, improve working conditions, and free up more time for people to engage in other meaningful activities. The problem is that the fruits of technological innovation are being monopolized by a globalized capitalist class. Take the example of digital labor platforms, financed primarily by venture capital funds in the global north. They have set up businesses in the global south without investing in assets, hiring employees, or paying into state coffers. This process is being buttressed by a framing that portrays the current terms of innovation as inevitable and thus uncontestable. As Wang reflects during the policy dialogue, who could question something which is moving along the laws of nature, of history, of technology? Setting parameters. For community practitioner Tessa Dooms, there are two potential roads. We can allow capital to do what it wants, or we can start imagining a world where we set the parameters for what tech should be. Dooms agrees that the narrative of the fourth industrial revolution is more aspiration than reality, but it's precisely because it's aspirational that its terms can be shaped. What is the place of Africans in an increasingly digitalized world? How are technologies affecting people's lives, identities, and access to opportunities? How can innovations advance a more just society where people are freed up to do meaningful work? How can states use regulations and other means to ensure the benefits of technological innovation are more equally shared? The Future Workers Research Group and South Center for Inequality Studies in the University of Witwatersrand is hosting a 6-part dialogue series. The aim is to generate further debate on the relationship between digital technologies, the changing nature of workers, and the implications for inequality. And this is on The Conversation by Ruth Castel-Branco and Hannah Dawson. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.